Hi, mine's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the potential insights that Liz Truss's disastrous meeting with her backbenchers last night might give us as to her intentions and what she may be forced to do next if she's to remain Prime Minister much into next year. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So it's usual for the Conservative leader to meet with party backbenchers on the evening following Prime Minister's questions. It's also very common for journalists to hang around and then grab the odd MP as they walk out the meeting to try and gauge the mood and a little of what might have been said. After the meeting, correspondent after correspondent reported that MPs were not impressed. I'll piece together what seems to have happened and then I'll add my own thoughts as to what I think's going on. But I really must begin with another meeting that traditionally happens for the Prime Minister on Wednesday. Truss met with the King for her weekly private chat with the monarch. Now, it's not normal to film any part of it. The actual discussion itself wasn't filmed, but for reasons best known to Truss and her PR advisor, who desperately needs sacking, they filmed the introduction yesterday. As Truss greets Charles, the King replied back. He replied, back again. And then Truss said, oh, it was a great pleasure. And then he replied, dear, oh dear, anyway. Now, if her plan was to try and leech some of his popularity in the same way as both she and Johnson kept getting President Zelensky to publicly thank them whenever they needed a distraction, it backfired hideously on this occasion. Now, I'm not going to speculate here that Charles is not impressed with the new Prime Minister trashing commitments on net zero, banning him from attending the next COP meeting. But whatever the King was thinking, it was clear he wasn't impressed with being used to boost the Prime Minister's flagging popularity. The monarch's not supposed to be used for political purposes, and it's quite possible that his reaction was just that. The fact that he's not impressed with the fact she's clearly using him for political purposes. So Charles was not wanting to play along with her game. Someone really needs to tell Truss that she should not be recording any interactions with actual people unless it's strictly necessary. She can't get away with PMQs. She has to do interviews. Okay, they're lost leaders. But she makes an arse of it every single time. Why invite extras? Why do extras that nobody expects, nobody asks for? Sack the PR. It's ridiculous. But anyway, that aside. So I've already said that Liz Truss got off lightly in PMQs itself yesterday. From her own MPs, that is. Obviously, opposition MPs had her for breakfast. But Tory MPs didn't ask any awkward questions. They were very kind to her. And I speculated that maybe they were giving her time to get real with her economic plans. Maybe they sort of were going, okay, she's U-turned on a few things. Let's keep it moving. We'll kick it all into shape somehow. In the meeting itself, it was reported that Truss told her MPs that they should focus on the energy plan and the drawbacks in Labour's energy plan. And from what I can gather, it was potentially at this point that some Tory MPs lost their rag. In the Prime Minister's head, the problem is not her policies, but how the public perceive them. That's been quite clear. That's clear. She's convinced her plan is good. It's just other people aren't clever enough to appreciate it. And perception is indeed the problem here. But she thinks her perception is sound and that it's the public that have a warped perception. Now, public perception can be warped because quite a lot of the business of government is fairly complex and it's beyond most people's real understanding. But the problem for Truss is that if she tries to claim that her perception is sound and it's just the public who are wrong, she's also having to say that it's also economists, city traders and bankers that are wrong as well. But she went into that meeting clearly thinking that, right, the reason why my MPs are so nervous here is because they looked at the polls and it's because of the way we've presented it. And she said that as much publicly. It's the plan is sound, the plan's brilliant. It's just the way we've presented it was maybe not, the best. So she's gone in there going, right, we need to work on the optics, lads. We need to work on the optics. So she advised her MPs what to say, what to focus on, as if that was the problem. She expected them to say, oh yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Liz. Instead, what she got was a barrage of WTF and she doesn't know how to handle things now. One widely reported incident included the MP Robert Halfon accusing Truss, quite angrily, I gather, of trashing 10 years of conservatism with her tax cuts to the rich. You know, Truss has tried to throw blame around, as Johnson did before her. She's publicly trying to blame the Bank of England for the mess. There's Tories in the paper today trying to blame the Bank of England, where it's a bit rich because they're the ones who stabilised the pound. But their governor has actually been quite tame for the government. You know, you compare to the last one. Without actually lying, Andrew Bailey's done a pretty good job of ignoring the massive elephant in the room during every bit of economic upheaval, which is Tory economic policy, most especially Brexit. He's been pretty good as a lapdog for them, and I'm guessing he's none too impressed with being thrown under the bus by a Prime Minister so awful that she took the mantle of worst Prime Minister ever from Boris Johnson within a matter of days. Reports also suggested that Truss was taken aback by the reaction from her MPs. Shell-shocked was the expression I saw by a few journalists. But this just adds to my view of her as being deluded into thinking the problem is not her plan but the way the public see it. As I say, she went into the meeting with advice for her MPs on how to shift perceptions, and she obviously expected them to be grateful for the leadership. She did not expect them to be wanting changes to the policy itself. So Truss seems to have been told that she needs to do much more to bring her economic plans into line with reality, or she's gone quite soon. How soon is will depend on a great deal. Like, I don't think that a majority of MPs will be seriously moving to get rid of her just yet. The reason Johnson lasted so long was that a lot of MPs really couldn't imagine a better alternative. When they finally conceded that anything would be better than him, even Larry the cat, they ended up with Liz Truss. So looking around, and they may well be thinking, actually, it's not just that we plump for the worst possible. There are other really bad options in the leadership contest as well. So as bad as things look now, and for all the talk of replacing her already, Truss probably still has time to put things right, if she wants to. The difficulty for her is that she seems to genuinely think her plan is fantastic, and all it needs is a bit of faith, and everyone will see that she's an economic genius. Before the next election, it's all brilliant. Oh, brilliant. The problem is she's not an economic genius. She's an idiot who read a few books, completely misunderstood the messages within them. That's according to the author of the books. Then she got together with another group of idiots to write the book Britannia Unchained as if they were experts writing the blueprint for Britain's next golden age. They then spent the next decade convincing themselves they were the future. The confirmation bias in rising through the ranks of the Tory party, finally with Truss being made Prime Minister by that party, the confirmation bias in there, her brain would have gone, oh yeah, very compelling for her, very compelling. So in her head, she recognises two realities. One, her plan's brilliant. Two, her MPs are a bit dim and they don't see the plan's brilliant, but she needs them on side to get her plan implemented. So what I am seeing with these slow, tortuous U-turns and double U-turns, for which I still don't have a better word, is a process of negotiation. You know, she's negotiating with her MPs. It's like a trade negotiation taking place between two nations, isn't it? Each side knows they're going to need to meet in the middle somewhere to get the agreement. But they'd like the middle to be nearer their side than their opponents or trade partners, whatever. So they concede only small amounts of ground at a time, rather than risk overshooting and giving more than they had to. This makes the negotiations take longer, but means that the final agreement has you conceding no more than you had to. That's how I see Truss behaving now. This is why I think she's U-turned a little bit at a time. I also think it's why she's reversed some U-turns, because sometimes she's U-turned on something and then gone back on it again. You know, she's maybe thinking she has to concede this point, and then the next day she thought, oh, maybe I didn't have to. And she's clawed it back. Speculation on my part, but it does seem to fit. Truss is trying to retain as much of her plan as possible in the genuine belief that if she guts too much out of it, you know, the most important features, which also seem to be the most unpopular features, that it won't actually work. But what she seems to fail to realise is that Tory MPs preferred Sunak to her for a reason. Not because he's a good political operator, he's just as much of an idiot as Truss, but because he was more conservative in his economic ideas, less scary. And also, regardless of political ideas, Tory MPs are right now worried about the election. The latest polling shows Labour leading the Conservatives in their own heartlands now. Never mind in the red wall. Never mind the country at large. Labour are even proving more popular in the Conservatives' own backyard, the so-called blue wall. So if Truss really is engaging in a slow process of negotiating with her MPs, it'll have to be seen how much patience her backbenchers have. But I will say that Truss is probably safe until prominent backbenchers start asking her very awkward questions in Parliament or actively calling for her to go in like radio interviews. You know, little briefings to journalists, often where we don't even know which MP said it. That's one thing. That's just blowing off steam to journalists in the House of Commons bars. But until they directly challenge her in a parliamentary debate, such as Prime Minister's questions, or publicly call for her to go in an interview, then we can conclude they're not actually moving against her just yet. I wonder if she'll have until the next fiscal statement, because that's currently scheduled for the end of next month. Oh, sorry, the end of this month now. So the end of this month. Or maybe they'll just wait to see if the budget's balanced then. Or maybe they'll just wait to see how the markets react next week. We'll have to find out. Mind you, if Truss does trash her tax cuts plans, let's say they just get rid of them, what then? Surely she loses all credibility. And if she genuinely believes that her plan would have worked, how's she supposed to even pretend to govern? Like pushing an agenda that she doesn't really believe in just to keep her MPs happy? That can't work either. But we can explore that a little bit more when we get some more information over the next few days, maybe the odd week. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.